Hello. How's everyone doing? Um, you're gonna have to let me know if the audio is working. I am going to have more difficulties than usual, so anyone in the chat, let me know if you can hear me. Uh, Obviously, not at my home office. The microphone I use to stream apparently has been thrown out um, by someone else that's in this place where I'm streaming. Uh, Audio is working, but it's bad. Right. Uh, this was one of the worst days I've had in forever. Um, just work stuff, not really stuff I could talk about. Uh, just, just incompetence from coworkers. You know, here's a tip for you out there. If you work in a place where people spend days at a time, and they have things like clothes there and blankets and phone chargers and electronic equipment, maybe don't throw everything out before talking to them. Don't throw hundreds of dollars of stuff out when you decide to clean. That's that sucks. Believe it or not, that is one of the least uh, frustrating things that happened to me today. So I guess I'll be raising money for a new mobile mic because I don't know how you could mistake it for garbage. Maybe it wasn't thrown away and it was just put in a spot that I don't know. But it was in my drawer with my blankets, my toiletries. Um, Blankets moved, toiletries moved, phone charger apparently thrown away, the wire from it, and apparently the wire for the microphone is good. Found it, but was unable to find the microphone. So I almost had to just do the stream through my phone on a black screen like I had done previously. But my headset has a microphone on it. Now the guy's a decent guy. He wouldn't have taken it for himself. It's he probably just thought it was garbage. Or he put it up somewhere and he's not responding to me. But whatever. No sense whining about it now. Yeah, it was a day at work. It just, like I said, we got licensing coming up, which then you gotta, you're just putting extra elbow grease and everything. Because imagine if at your home that you live and work at, that someone's coming to inspect it. Like, you probably keep your home pretty clean, but if someone's coming to inspect it, it's like, oh, we're gonna do a little extra. So it was just a lot of that stuff. Let me know if this is any worse or better. I took the headset off, and I'm just gonna leave it there as a microphone. I thought that my laptop here had like a default microphone on it, but it wasn't working. So, is this? I'll just ask. Yeah. I mean, if it's not worth streaming, it's not worth streaming. So I'll ask Aftershock and those of you that are there. If the audio sucks too bad, I'll just end the stream and I'll see you all Wednesday. But yeah, there's nothing I could do. I have what's called. It's actually pretty cool. It's called a Samsung Meteor mic. Is what I used to travel with me. I'll see if I can bring up a picture of it. I enjoyed it. I've been using that for years and years. It's got me through a lot of. So, I don't know how much it costs now. I'll bring up a picture for you. There it is. That's the mic I normally use. I don't know how you could think that's garbage, but that may have happened. I don't know. Frustrating. Okay, Keely says it looks like a butt plug. Well, one of my favorite cooking show guys is Alton Brown, and when he used to do Good Eats. Good Eats is a fantastic show, and he always says when it comes to kitchen appliances, he likes multitaskers. So, same with microphones, right? You don't want a microphone that's just a microphone. You want a multitasker. So apologies for that. Give me 1 second. I'm going to check somewhere real quick. See if I can find that old mic. All right. Well, it's really a bummer, too, because tomorrow night I had planned, I'd hoped to live stream. Would earbud mics sound better? I don't know. I don't have earbuds. I had planned on live streaming, if possible, the John Fetterman, Dr. Oz debate. It's going to be a doozy. A closed caption debate where Fetterman won't be able to understand the words that's being said. So I got an old... Do I sound like old-time radio? Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you the Normal America Show with shit equipment because he's broke as a joke and his co-workers threw out his microphone. Oh, you got your dog out? Yeah, good stuff. I'm just waiting for this headset to die, too. It's wireless, so that'll be the next thing. So, try original mic method. Want to hear if it correct? I don't know what you mean, original mic. My laptop, I couldn't even figure out how to get the microphone default in it working. So I looked everywhere, and the only thing I could think of was oh yeah, the one thing I have here is a headset. It probably has a microphone. That's right. Sounds like a 1930 radio's broadcast. Coming to you live from somewhere in rural Pennsylvania. Changed an audio source? No. I thought of one other spot to look for changing where my mic was, but yeah. So we'll deal with it tonight, as long as it's audible, as long as people can hear. This is what we got to go on tonight. So, but yeah, who cares if you all could hear me? The important thing is Ukraine's getting billions of dollars. That's the important part. Could I at least talk like Dan Rather? You mean lie? Be a shill? Want me to speak fast and it's old-timey races? I have this friend, we used to play this drinking game called horse racing, and what you did was you lined up, was it 6 spots, right? And you bet on a suit, like diamonds, clubs, except what suits are on cards. And then you flip the cards up until, to win the race, you had to have 5 of that suit come up. And my friend we'd be drunk, and he would always do the and coming around the lead, we see hearts is coming around it, they go to the first bend, we got hearts and clubs now making a comeback, I'm going to be clubs in the end, diamonds still yet to get out of the gate, and hearts, oh, we got a second one to come to the hearts in the third round, oh, another hearts, and who saw that coming in, the clubs coming around the bend, we got clubs coming up, oh, hearts finished first, followed by clubs, diamonds, and then at the end, the other suit I can't think of, spades. Sounds like from some country. Yeah, robnoerr live streaming from Ukraine with Dylan Burns. Sorry, Oh, my. What a day. I'm not even going to go into all my work problems today, but God, it's frustrating. It's just frustrating. Covering up for just other people's deficiencies, it just is incredibly frustrating. And I'm not going to talk specifics, but I'll just say this. There are certain things that you expect of people in the world. Everyone, all of us. We all make mistakes. All of us could, no matter what, you could always work harder at something. There has probably never in the history of the world been someone that literally worked as hard as possible at their job. You can always put in a little extra effort, 30 seconds more of effort. Even if you're busting your ass 18 hours a day, it could have been 18 and a half hours. I get that. No one asks for perfection. I certainly am incapable of giving perfection. But what frustrates me is when okay, One day a year, there is someone's checking your work. It's not a surprise. It's, someone is coming to check your work this day. Can you at least have the bare basics of what you're required to do done? Can you do that? Again, I'm not going to talk specifics, but let's say hypothetically that you worked in a restaurant and you knew that the health inspectors were coming the next day. And the owner of the restaurant comes to you and says, listen, at a minimum, can you please make sure that the grill is clean tonight? And you say, yeah, I could do that. And then the owner is like, look, I'm gonna head home. Did you clean the grill? And they say, yeah, I cleaned the grill. Yeah. And the owner's like, okay, excellent. Because the inspectors are going to be here tomorrow at 7 a.m. Yep, the grill's clean. And then the owner goes home. And then he comes at 6:45 to open and wait for the inspectors. And he checks the grill, and it's a fucking mess. Why would you do that? That's the sort of stuff that I don't know how to deal with. It just blows my mind. It's like, you knew, and by the way, it's not like, well, I'm not there, I didn't clean the grill, whatever, I'm at home, I'm not working tomorrow. So you're still going to get in trouble. Everybody knows you were the one that was supposed to clean the grill. Now you just screwed over other people. It's just aggravating. And then everyone else on the team has to make up for your deficiencies, and scramble to do this basic level stuff. It's infuriating, So, in a nutshell, that's kind of what I dealt with today, and it was a mess. It's over with. Hopefully, that's just day one. So this will go on for a month. So, I was frustrated, and I have to say, here's the deal with me, And I know people want to hear me talk politics. We're going to talk election security tonight, baby. Woo! Election security. Gotta love it. Give it the Ric Flair woo. Let me hear it in the audience, everyone. Woo! Your best woo. Election security, baby. Woo! We love this country. We will talk about it. But, I'm a pretty easygoing guy. I know I get fired up on the debates and stuff. Yeah, whatever. I'm not going to apologize for that. But, my real life, it takes a lot to get me, animated. Well, you blew a tire. What are you going to do? Stuff like that. I kind of let it roll off me. I feel like Adam Sandler's character in Anger Management, where it's just like, I never get that upset about anything. And then when you just have a day where it's like everything's heaped on you, you're just like going to explode. You're like, ah! So I have to apologize to my poor wife. I do feel pretty, of course. Of course, one of the best little meme gifs ever is just Jack Nicholson when he's just nodding his head yes. It's so creepy. It's great. It's a good movie. I liked it. But my poor wife. She has nothing to do with my job. But who am I going to complain to? So I call her all day and I'm like, just complaining about work, and she's a trooper. So I thank her. Find someone in your life like my wife. She's the best. I don't have a lot of bad days because she's awesome and my son's awesome, and I usually have a pretty good attitude. But man, when I have a shitty attitude, she's there for me. So really makes things easier knowing that sometimes you just need to complain for a solid hour, and there she is. That's what this show does to me. By the way. Yeah, I hear you, Galil. Woo! I was watching some, in the background today, I had YouTube playing, and I was watching some old wrestling reviews, Four Horsemen. I saw that, Galil, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot, I wish I was at home. One second. To have my home office to do the stream. There's a lot, that I wanted to talk about, just, people you see on Twitter, I saw this thread. It was unbelievable. It had 14,000 likes on it on Twitter. And it was, I'd seen this video before. It comes up, this shit comes up a lot, where you see like violent brawls and shit like that. Or Asian hate crimes, in the inner city. It's just crazy shit. Like, oh, here's another day in New York. Someone getting beat up on the subway or something. Like gruesome stuff. Terrible stuff. I don't talk about it a lot in my show. It's crazy. There's something happening in this country. It's hard to compare what's going on now to what's happened in the past because we now have more access to see it. So when people talk about like how bad New York was in the 70s and 80s, objectively, probably still more violent than today's New York, but it certainly seems to be trending in that direction. And the difference is now we can all see. Everybody's got a cell phone, so they're filming everything. Anyways, this particular clip that I'm talking about showed a kid. And the race is going to matter for this. The kid, let's say maybe 11 or 12, just guessing. And then another kid who happened to be black chasing him, who appeared older, at least substantially bigger, maybe 15, 16. And the white kid is running, and the black kid's running behind him and just catches up to him and just clobbers him on the side of the head and knocks him down. Now, listen, does this prove, this makes some racial point? No, not necessarily. Is it fair to say, well, if this was the other direction, people would have been furious? Sure, that's fair. I'm not really into that level of what I'm talking about. I don't talk about this shit often, right, whatever. But what blew my mind was, it had like 12,000 likes, and I'd seen the video before, but the person that posted the video was like, allegedly this little white kid said the N-word. What do you think? And it was just like, every comment that had over 1,000 likes was like, good, serves him right. Ha, he got what's coming to him. And I'm just thinking, like, that's crazy. Like, I mean, it's bad enough if it's adults and you see one adult get pummeled and someone's like, well, they had it coming because something they said. I don't give a shit if it's a white, a black person, a Muslim, Hispanic, Christian, atheist. Like anytime you see someone just, like, really getting beat to the point where it looks like they're knocked unconscious, it is not a good thing. I don't want to say there's exceptions, but you could understand it more if it's like the other person threw a punch and then they get hit back. Or if they assaulted, grabbed some woman's hair and then they get hit back or something like that. But just, anytime with kids, it's brutal. It's just brutal. And, you just look at that and you're like, God damn. And who knows how many of them are bots replying or liking or whatever, but it's undoubtable. There are people out there that feel that, hey, if you say something that some left-wing group doesn't like, you get what's coming. That's it. If you say something against a group they consider it would never work the other way. If you saw a 16-year-old kid smacking a person of color, a little kid person of color, and then it was like, well, they made a racial slur against the white person. People, who gives a shit? Or even if it was something heinous, like they made fun of that kid's mom for being dead. People wouldn't be like, oh, that's okay, whack them. I mean, it's just, again, I'm not trying to, there's a lot to say about race stuff. That's not what I'm saying here today. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying, this general idea where it's like, you see something like that where you're like, man, that's fucking horrible. That's a kid hitting a kid. A big kid hitting a little kid. That's horrible. I'm not saying the kid should go to prison the rest of his life or anything like that. I'm just saying, damn. No matter what led to that situation, damn, that sucks. It's horrible. And people were like, yay! It's like, whew. Man. But yeah, I saw a lot of shit like that today. It's crazy. Not to that level necessarily, but just the narrative that's coming out there. So we might as well jump into what I wanted to talk about. The narrative that's coming out is just, all of a sudden it's cool to question elections again. Oh boy, who saw that coming? Oh no, here we are. Now you might be saying, but Rob, you're streaming on YouTube. Yes, I am streaming on YouTube. This video will be deleted after this live stream. Now I trust the great people at YouTube. YouTube is, anyone who knows me knows, I would never question any establishment institutions. Would not do that. Particularly YouTube. I mean, who amongst us doesn't agree with the following statement? YouTube knows more than any of us, and all of our speech should be controlled by YouTube. That's fair. That's a fair statement. When it comes to controversial issues, ignore all data, ignore all self-inquiry, and understand YouTube knows what's best for you. Or Facebook, or Twitter, or Twitch, these places know what's best. And I have to admit, I want to apologize right now because I went through a phase where I mistakenly said to myself, well, you know, maybe it's worth looking into how secure our elections are. We massively changed. Of course, I would never say that the election was stolen or anything. I'm not saying that. But just the idea that you might think, well, because of COVID and other such things, a lot of places in 2020 changed how they voted. And so maybe there's security issues. You know, we had heard for years Russia was trying to hack our elections. And so maybe with this mass changing of the way we voted and things of that nature, and it took a long time, you know, maybe there were questions that needed answered. But YouTube, to their credit, obviously did huge amounts of investigations and came to the conclusion, trust us, it was the most secure election ever, so much so that we will not allow you to raise questions. And they're absolutely right to do so. Right? That's the correct way. We have to, us as individuals, you know, even Congress people, whoever, no one is qualified except places like YouTube to make these sorts of decisions. And so, absolutely, it's great. It's great. You know, and by the way, they did this with COVID too, which it turns out everything they said was absolutely right. Right? Right? They should ban you for saying things that you disagree with. One second. So, you know, thank God we have these institutions, you know. We can trust that they'll be fair and that they know what they're talking about. We could trust that when it comes to elections, when it comes to COVID. That's why I was shocked to find on Twitter today, on mainstream media outlets, and other places, people seem to be questioning the security of the 2022 election. How can that be? The debate's over. There's no debate. That makes you an insurrectionist. If you say that our elections could be exploited by foreign powers, or that our elections shouldn't be trusted because of some sort of institution, that's insurrection. That's what it is. We can't talk about that. That's insurrection. There's no debate in this. I thought that this was settled. YouTube has spoken. The media has spoken. The Democrats have spoken. You can't question security of elections, period. End of story. I don't understand why this is difficult. And yet, all day today I saw on Twitter, all day, I saw claims. Republicans are gerrymandering and stealing elections. How could you say that? How could you not have faith in our elections? China and Russia are trying to interfere with our elections. People said, Chris Wray and Merrick Garland were saying today. How can that be? They can't say that. That's outrageous. That's an outrageous statement. You can't say that. That's insurrection. And yet there it was. All over my feed. I saw Ted Cruz go on The View. And he said, Stacey Abrams said that the election was stolen, and Whoopi said she was right to say that. Wait, what? How could that be? Surely that was immediately scrubbed from YouTube, right? And Twitter. That's insurrection. How can this be? I was puzzled. I'm hoping that YouTube steps in. In fact, what I want to show you is, here's a little video I did kind of explaining seemingly what YouTube's policies are. One second. Oh, boy. These YouTube shorts.
I have a lot of questions. So,
let's see if I can bring it up here. There's going to be a weird echo here. But I made a YouTube short. Here you go. You ready?
I have a lot of questions about this claim. I'm supposed to believe that the 2020 election will be
1 second. Tech issues. Come on, Rob. All right. Well, let's try this. One last try here.
So I have a lot of questions about this claim. I'm supposed to believe that the 2020 election, where we massively changed how we voted because of COVID and things like that, was the most secure ever. I mean, that seems ridiculous. Surely there was some sort of problem. So I think it's worth looking into this claim. The most secure election. What's that? Oh, YouTube's telling me I can't say this. So it appears as if Merrick Garland's saying that our elections might not be secure, that there are foreign actors and things like that. And, I have a lot of questions about this because, I'm a true believer now our elections are the most secure thing ever. So I question just sort of what evidence it is that foreign influencers are trying to affect our elections. I thought they were very secure. Oh, what's that, YouTube? I'm not allowed to question this. So I have a lot of questions about this claim.
Isn't that very nice? Good policy, W. So this time yesterday, if I was on my channel on YouTube saying, most secure election ever, wow, I'm skeptical. That's quite a bold claim of all the elections that have occurred in this country. Most secure ever. YouTube said, no, you can't say that. Here's a community strike. 2 more of those and you lose your channel forever. And so that's yesterday if I said it. And so then today I'm like, thank you, YouTube. Thank you. Absolutely. YouTube is absolutely brilliant. They're absolutely right. Only an insurrectionist would question the security of an election. By the way, Merrick Garland and Chris Wray gave a press report talking about some Chinese individuals that were interfering in our system, in our judicial system. A question was specifically asked afterwards if they could be trying to influence our elections, to which Chris Wray responded that always working to stop against potential interference in our system, including our elections, and that they would be working with state and local officials. How could Chris Wray say that? How could he say that? You can't question elections, Chris Wray. The election is secure. It's secure. Period. End of story. There is no questioning. Now, it will be fun to watch that on October 23rd, 2022, if you question the security of elections, and not just the security, if you question the statement that the 2020 election, where we massively changed the way we voted, if you question the statement that it was, and I'm quoting now, not just that, of course there was error and fraud, but it wasn't enough to tip the scales, that's a reasonable statement. But no, the statement is, it is the most secure election ever. To question that gets you kicked off YouTube. You can't question that. That's insurrection. Got it? And then not 24 hours later, the official statement from our FBI, from our Department of Justice is, China's interfering, and they may interfere in our elections attempt to. Now, if I say, well, wait a minute, we have the most secure election systems ever. There is no way that China would be. This is just gaslighting people. There's no way. Eventually, you will be censored from YouTube if you go against the narrative that our elections aren't secure. Now, this is very reminiscent of something that happened, which I was one of the only people that I heard talk about. Let me take you in a time machine. Way back to March 2020. Now, YouTube, after March of 2020, at some point, I don't have the direct date, but they decided that they were going to remove, and I'm quoting now, disinformation regarding COVID. Well, who decides what's disinformation? And the claims that were being thrown around was official government institutions such as the World Health Organization or the CDC. And so if you said something that went against the narrative of the World Health Organization or the CDC, you could have your information removed from YouTube, that particular statement or video, and you could get a community guideline strike and eventually be banned off YouTube. That's what they said. Now, if you go back to March of 2020, what was the CDC and Dr. Fauci and them saying about, I don't know, masks? Well, their original statement was, masks don't work. Don't worry about running out to buy a mask. That was their statement. If I was to come on that day and say, I don't agree with that, I think that although masks might not fully prevent transmission, it might help some. Maybe it will reduce transmission 15 to 20%. So I suggest that people go out and try to buy masks. YouTube could have censored me that day. They would have said, well, your statement talking about the effects of masks being positive is counter to CDC guidelines, so we're going to censor you. But then, a couple weeks later, if I said, okay, I agree, YouTube did right to censor me, so now I'll say masks do work, or don't work. YouTube would have said, no, now you can't say that. We know we told you that's what you had to say 2 weeks ago, but now Dr. Fauci changed his mind, and so now you have to say that masks work, and we'll kick you off for saying they don't. Then you might say, wow, that seems crazy, that you have to say the exact opposite in order to stay on. But that's the rules, that's what they say. And now, brought to you by that same stupidity comes, you can't question that 2020 was the most secure election ever. But 2022 has a lot of questions about the security. Don't question that either. You see how it works? By the way, your bootlicking left-wing friends, they love it. Yup. We should only be allowed to say what they say we're allowed to say as long as they agree with me. But if they ban one of my, if Vaush gets a strike or H3 gets a strike, oh my God, it's the end of the world. These evil capitalist pigs censoring people. By the way, you're a fascist if you disagree with this. If you think that our institutions where the public narrative is being formed shouldn't be controlled by multinational corporations, you're a fascist. Get it? So it's cool to question elections again. Yay, we can question elections. So you get ready to see all your left-wing friends say, they suppressed the vote. The election outcome was voter suppression. Gerrymandering. This is illegitimate. Fascism. China and Russia. No. It'll be cool. It'll be cool to do that. And they'll say, this time it's different because there's proof. There's proof of it. Just like there's proof that Trump colluded with Russia. I see our friend Pisco's here. Pisco will be one of those. Pisco will say, yeah, let me tell you, everyone, I'm a lawyer. I passed the bar. And so let me tell you, I enjoy thoroughly licking everyone at the FBI's taint. And I can tell you, without a shadow of a doubt, that anything they ever say is 100% proven. It's absolutely proven. Also, by the way, legal immigrants rock unless you send them to the communities of wealthy left-wingers and then get those fuckers out of there, right? Thank you, Pisco. Pisco. I'm sorry. Thank you, Pisco. It's always nice to have you stop in. So yeah, he'll be here telling us, after the. I'm sure we'll talk about it after the election. After Garland and them say, we have questions. We have questions of voter intimidation and suppression of votes and possible hacking. But here's all you need to know. Republicans, if they're winning, then it must be cheating. Democrats, if they're winning, then you can't question it ever. That's it. That's all you need to know. Now, let me give Pisco some credit. He's at least intelligent enough to go, but isn't that exactly what the Republicans do? You're not wrong. Yes, you could make that criticism. You could make the both sides do it criticism. You could say, well, when Trump lost, he was going to say, it must have been cheating, that's why I lost. Absolutely. That is exactly what was going to happen in 2020. And just like Hillary said, or in my state of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro said, right? Josh Shapiro said, who was the Attorney General here in Pennsylvania, he guaranteed that if every vote counted, there was no way that Trump would win in 2020 in Pennsylvania. That's what he said. Now, Carrie Lake was asked a question the other day, and they said, will you accept the results of the election? And she said, of course I'm going to win. And then the national media said, oh, that's her saying she'll only trust the results if she wins. So it would have to be cheating if not. Now, that's what Josh Shapiro said. That's what Hillary Clinton said, that under no circumstances if Joe Biden lost should he concede, because there would have been shenanigans going on. That was okay. That was okay. I will totally agree with the criticism of Trump and Trump supporters and even people like me, who is a Trump supporter, but yeah. You will have skepticism. For example, even though I hated him, when Obama beat Romney and there were districts in Philadelphia with 100% Obama votes, I'm skeptical of that. I'm skeptical. That sounds like horseshit to me. It's not proof. I'm not saying the election should have been overturned, but I thought that should be looked into because that sounds pretty damn skeptical. 100% turnout in or 100% for one candidate in districts? Now, maybe I was wrong. Maybe that story was incorrect. I don't know. One second here. Let's start in Cleveland, where bloggers have been writing about more than 100 precincts where Obama won at least 99% of the vote, and 16 precincts where Mitt Romney won no votes at all. How could this happen? But black Democrats understand sometimes they do get 99% or more of the vote in black precincts. Obama actually did pitch a shutout, 100%, in 18 Cuyahoga County precincts. And you would expect him to. Now, he may have. That's not proof. But you can't help but be skeptical. Like, really? 100% in 18 precincts. 100%? Not one person? Thousands or hundreds of people voting in these precincts and not one person went the other way? Again, let me be clear for those that want to take me out of context. Oh, Rob's saying that Obama stole the 2008 or the 2012 election. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you can't help but being skeptical. Similarly, if precincts came out with 100% Trump vote, I'm in rural Pennsylvania. If my precinct would have been 100% Trump, I'd have been like, really? I don't know about that. I would, if it was 90%, I could have bought that. But 100%? Nah, it sounds weird to me. It's not. I'm not saying it's not possible. It certainly is. It just seems like you can't help but be skeptical. I understand both sides being skeptical in that type of situation. And I understand as sort of corruption and talks of gerrymandering, which does exist on both sides, and talks of voter suppression, which is absolute bullshit. Remember Jim Crow on steroids? It's Jim Eagle in Georgia. They had to move. Remember they had to move the All-Star game out of Georgia? Oh boy. Moved it, where'd they move it? To Denver. Moved it out of a predominantly black city in Atlanta that would have benefited them financially into a more white city in Denver because allegedly the reasonable voting law that was passed was intentionally suppressing the vote. Of course, they had record turnout, but never mind that. It was Jim Eagle, damn it! Jim Eagle! Jim Eagle, damn it! I get it. I fully expect the Democrats to whine and bitch and moan if they lose this election coming up. And they're going to say there was voter suppression and there was, there could have been, did Trump cheat? Did Trump election officials cheat? Were there people that, did they stop people? Did they move? Remember when we were told that, like, Donald Trump was personally, like, putting on a fucking ski mask and going out and removing mailboxes so people couldn't vote? Remember that? Oh, Trump's ordering the Postal Service to remove, he's intentionally defunding the Postal Service. People won't be able to vote. There's no fucking chance if Trump won that you wouldn't have heard Democrats in mass saying, Trump cheated, he did this, Republicans did this, they gerrymandered, they suppressed the vote, they tried to stop mail-in voting, it was cheating, Russia interfered. That's what they were going to say. They were already leading up to it. Every fucking person knows it. So what am I saying if both sides do it? Well, here's what I'm saying. One side is allowed to do it, has their concerns taken seriously, has serious investigations, and people being able to talk about it on social media, and people being able to talk about it in the media, and the other side gets called insurrectionist and censored. That's the problem. And so these places like YouTube, you have to buy the obvious bullshit statement. 2020 was the most secure election ever. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Does that mean that robnoerr has proof that the election was stolen? No. I'm not saying that. But I goddamn know that it wasn't the most secure election ever. And you know how I know? Well, because there were all sorts of crazy things that were going on that was completely new. For example, in Pennsylvania, we massively changed the way we voted. I know that mail-in voting is less secure than in-person voting. Absolutely true. More likely to have error, more likely to get lost in the mail than if you just vote in person, more likely to not put the correct time or address or stamp, more likely to have more people have their hands on your ballot, which means if there is someone that's trying to be nefarious, there's more chances for that to occur. You don't have to provide ID to an election worker right there to make sure that you could prove you are who you are in many of these cases with mail-in voting. You would fully expect, with zero intended corruption whatsoever, for an election that was, for the first time in many states, massively increasing, or maybe for the first time having mail-in voting like this, you would expect it to be, and I'm quoting, less secure. Does that mean that it was stolen? No, that's not what I'm saying. But I have to be gaslit that it's the most secure election ever. And you can't raise any questions. And if you do, you'll be censored off social media. Now follow me here. This is the non-conspiracy. This is what the left-wing bootlickers, like Pisco's in here, thanks so much, Pisco, this is what they'll want you to believe. You can't question that 2020 was the most secure election ever. Can't question it. Aren't able to question it whatsoever. But a mere 2 years later, we have to be very concerned that both foreign influence and people acting domestically could unfortunately interfere in our election. What happened? Would this not at the very least be a tacit admission, if we believe them, that under 4 years of Donald Trump, the result was that when we had that election in 2020, something occurred under Trump that made that election unique, that it was the most secure ever. We don't know what. I don't know exactly what the executive was doing or what all of these states had done to make this the most secure election ever. And one of the reasons I don't know is because you can't even talk about it. You just have to accept their religion. It is true. It was the most secure ever. Period. End of story. No details necessary. You're a fucking insurrectionist if you disagree. But somehow, in a mere 2 years of the Biden presidency, now we're going back to elections aren't secure again. What happened? You mean to tell me all it took was 2 years of Democrats controlling the House, the Senate, and the presidency, and all of a sudden, now we have security issues with our elections again? We went from the most secure ever to having people publicly on TV asking Christopher Wray, the head of the FBI, could it be that foreign influencers will be able to influence our election? Oh, we have to be diligent. We're working with state and local officials. How so? How much work's really necessary? I mean, you just had, if you build Fort Knox, the most secure building ever, how much upkeep's really necessary 2 years later? But don't worry, I'm sure, and I give Pisco a hard time. I like picking on him. I think he's a good sport, and he knows. I don't wish him personally ill. That's the God's honest truth, for real. And at least he's not talking about shoving Molly up his ass. You know, so that's a step in the right direction from the normal riffraff I talk to. I will guarantee, if not Pisco, it'll be someone that I will be having a discussion a year from now about alleged gerrymandering, voter suppression, Russia interfering, etc., in the 2022 election. Guaranteed. Some left-winger will want to talk about it. And I'll guarantee they're not kicked off YouTube for saying it. Yeah, Pisco's a hack, I agree. You know, I saw Syrian singing on Twitter today. And I've been saying it for a while. Wait and see. Boy, with the streaming community, big drama streams, what Keppel say today? Oh, Sneeko, the battle for Sneeko's soul. Destiny talking to Sneeko and then Fit and Fresh, blah, 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 blah. Oh, my God, what's going on with the Groypers? Nick Fuentes, is he still friends? Oh, who's Vaush talking for? Will Jordan Peterson be on? My goodness, what's going on? Not much politics discussion going on in the political Twitch and YouTube community from these vaunted left-wing streamers. A lot of drama going on. Not much to say politically. But mark my fucking words, if Republicans win the House, especially if they win the House and Senate, oh boy, then it'll be time to talk politics again. There we go. Now we can talk politics. Not shit all to say while their side's in complete control and fucking the country up in a litany of ways. They don't have shit all to say. Keppel's drone. You can see it. You can see them already crafting the message. Well, you know, we've done a lot to fight inflation. We've done a lot. And when Republicans get in, then all of a sudden you'll see it real. Right. Like, for example, we know that the thing they impeached Trump for, once more, Biden actually did. Biden did, according to the Saudi government, engage. They contacted the Saudi government and said, can you please wait to tamp down your oil production till after the midterms? And then Biden and his team was talking about, maybe we'll rearrange our deal with Saudi Arabia and our selling of weapons and stuff. Well, shit, that's a quid pro quo. And I was told that quid pro quo for political gain, well, that's impeachment. Not with the fucking Democrats, though. Drain the strategic oil reserve, Chris Hayes says that's okay. It's okay to drain it because it's important to fight fascism. So if we have to bribe people by artificially keeping things cheaper right now, even though the prices are still going through the roof, just until after the midterms, that's okay. And the bonus is, well, if it doesn't work and you don't win the midterms, then you just blame the other sides when the price goes up. And that'll be the plan. Remember when they were how much money was Biden gonna send you if he got elected? Remember that? And then he bullshitted us. He sent us like $900 instead of the. Well, I didn't mean I would send you $2,500. I meant, you know, with the money that was already sent, we would add to that $225. Thanks. Boy, elections are gonna be fun in the future. When I run for Congress next time, I'm gonna send every American a check for $1 million. That's my plan. And then when Democrats say that's not feasible, I'll say, why do you hate poor people? You think that woman right there, raising 2 kids working at McDonald's, she doesn't deserve $1 million? What the fuck is wrong with you, evil Democrats? That's what I'm going to do. That's what they do. Works for them. But don't question it. All you need to know is we have the best economy ever. We have the most secure border ever. And we have the most secure election ever, unless Republicans win, and then, who knows? Voter suppression, blah, blah, you know. Now, Ted Cruz was on today on The View, which kind of good for him. Going with those cackling harpies. Probably the most interesting person that's been on there since Norm Macdonald told them in the 90s that Bill Clinton killed someone. One of the funniest things you ever see. The original Norm Macdonald on The View. Absolutely hilarious stuff. Yeah, Bill Clinton killed that guy, right? They're like, you can't say that. Why? What? Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. But Ted Cruz goes on, and, you know, it's a hostile environment. You got the cackling harpies on there, plus then the audience, whatever. You know, and they're talking about, not accepting the results of the election. So Ted Cruz brings out his papers like, here's what Hillary said, not accepting results of election. Here's Stacey Abrams. And, of course, Anna Navarro goes, you don't raise your voice, blah, blah, blah. When Ted Cruz mentioned Stacey Abrams, she said that the election, Whoopi goes, yeah, she was right. Oh, okay. Yeah, see, that's okay. They don't even remotely... And here's the thing. Aftershocks, like, you know, stop thinking they're in good faith. That's true. But the great question is, are they just brainwashed and they're so convinced of their moral superiority that they believe their own bullshit? Or are they bad faith? I don't know. Many of the smart people you know are just bad faith. Whoopi Goldberg? She probably believes the bullshit she's saying. Okay for Stacey Abrams to say the election was stolen. That's fine, because it was stolen. But it's anti-democratic to vote for people that say elections were stolen. But wait a minute, you just said you support Stacey Abrams and said the election was stolen. But it was stolen. They don't even see that as a contradiction. They don't see it. Right, when our side says something is true, we don't have to follow the same standards as you. Why? Because you're awful. So we could censor you. We could do whatever the fuck we want to you. Ask Sam Harris. He'll tell you. Thank you, Sam, for finally outing what so many of these left-wingers really believe. Yeah, I'm fine with bullshitting and censoring stories that are critical of my candidate. That's fine. Because Orange Man bad. You see all of the, like, the talking points went out for all the left-wing, you know, influencers. Oh, Andrew sent me something on Twitter to open live. Yeah, let me check that. Wait a second. Just, Andrew, all I see is here. Alright, let's check this out real quick. This is what Andrew sent me on Twitter. Must be a video. I know the audio is weird on this, but
Yeah, me too. Hello, Destiny's chat. You might remember me, BPF. We've gone a couple of rounds ourselves. We're going to let Tristan go ahead and open. Tristan, if you want to do that.
Awesome. You got the videos up and running, which is something I've been waiting for. So that's Comfy.stream. I don't think that's live, but it's showing Comfy now has replays, which is exactly what I've been waiting for. Like, for example, tonight's show that I'm doing right now that I am streaming, please, the place to watch me, I need to figure out, the next step is I need to figure out how to get the chat live on the side of my screen from Comfy. But once I do that, that's it. That's everything I need from Comfy. So Comfy.stream, if you make an account, the two things that they didn't have that I really needed was, one, that it'll store video replays, which it now does, which is awesome. And then second, once I get the chat rolling, that's it. This video that I'm doing right now, I will have to delete from YouTube as soon as I'm done. Do you know how nice it'll be to have a platform where I can stream that will save my videos and That's it. The stream, I can't type right now, believe it or not, because my weird setup, not at my home computer. So if someone could put in the chat, it's Comfy, COMFY.stream. Then you make an account when you're there. Everything through there is so much smoother. Yeah, I can also upload videos. That is awesome. So you'll be able to find all of my videos that I do there. Reasons to prefer Comfy.stream. One, as far as I'm concerned, we did a little testing on it. The video quality and the sort of latency rate seems to be better on Comfy than even Twitch. Second, I could say whatever I want there. Third, it's ran by my friend Andrew there, who probably most of you are conservatives, so it's ran by someone who shares your values and isn't going to kick you off or people that you like off merely because they said something that he doesn't like. But even if you're a liberal, even if you're a left-winger, a terrible, terrible left-winger like Pisco that's watching, he's not going to kick people off that disagree with him on politics. He's not going to say that. I have full 100% confidence that I could do an entire 4-hour stream on how Andrew is the biggest sack of shit ever, and he might do a stream saying, no, fuck you, Rob, you're wrong, but he ain't going to kick me off Comfy. So as a left-winger, that should appeal to you, because you don't have to worry that you'll run afoul of the Keffels Brigade and they'll decide to cancel you. The other thing is, it is so easy to do, which basically is super chat feature. So when you sign up for there, let's say you wanted to donate money to me, all you have to do is click the super chat the donate feature, and I get well over 90% of that money, as opposed to places like Twitch and YouTube where you're getting 70% or less at times. And the rest of the money, instead of sending it to Jeff Bezos or some other asshole that just wants to censor you, it's actually going to a free speech platform with people that probably share your values. So check out Comfy.stream. I'm gonna be doing exclusive stuff from there coming up here in a month or two. I'm still gonna stream somewhat on Twitch and YouTube, but let's be honest, they're gonna kick me off these platforms. I know it, you know it, we all know it. And the sad part is, this is how I love my audience. I do. There are people that I watch stream that I like very much. But tell me, honestly, someone tell me in the chat if this has happened to you. You watch someone, like you're watching their videos, whether it be on YouTube, whether it be on Twitch, etc. You watch their live streams, you watch their videos, and then all of a sudden, a couple months go by and you're like, oh yeah, what happened to that guy I watched? I haven't seen anything from him. That especially happens to me on Twitter. Especially happens to me where I'll be like, hey, I like that one person who used to tweet all the time. I like their tweets. They would tweet on elections, or they would tweet on Russiagate. Why don't I see them anymore? And then you look it up. Oh, they've been banned. Yeah, and you don't know. Like most of you, I don't have a social media. One, usually when you get banned on one platform, you get banned on them all. So what am I going to do? Pick up the phone and call people? And there's going to be like some telephone tag? Oh, Rob got canceled. Now go over here. So the best thing you could do is be proactive. As a content provider, be proactive and go to places that aren't going to censor you, like Comfy.stream. And the same is true as a content viewer. If you only follow me on YouTube or Twitch, someday you'll be like, haven't heard from Rob for a while, what happened? And you'll find out, oh, he got banned 3 months ago. Yeah, I don't think CTV got banned. I think he just quit streaming. But yeah, like that. Wish him well. I hope he's doing well. So, Comfy.stream. Yeah. Thank you so much for those putting it in. So yeah, we got replays up there now, so you can check there. If you say, didn't Rob debate someone the other day? Why can't I find that video on YouTube? Well, probably because I had to remove it or get banned. But you can find it on Comfy.stream. So back to sort of what we were talking about with election security. There was a story that came out. It was amazing. I covered it in the slightest way. It deserves much more attention. One of the things is, because I don't watch a lot of content anymore because I'm so busy being a father, working absurd hours, etc., I read more than I watch. Now, I'm not saying I read like, oh, Rob's reading the classic. I wish. I need to do more of that. But no, what I mean read is like I'm reading news stories. You know, I'm reading, Just the News, or I'm reading CNN articles, or the Wall Street Journal, or Substacks of Matt T. Abbey, etc. I do. I read more of, for example, what Aaron Maté writes than I watch what Aaron Maté says. Aaron Maté has a call-in channel, but I don't get to watch it often. But I can, reading his Substack easier because I could do that at my own leisure, So sometimes I mispronounce things, because if you don't hear someone else pronounce something, then how the hell do you know if you're pronouncing it right? So forgive me if I'm pronouncing this incorrectly, but I haven't heard anyone talk about this. I've just read. I covered this a little. Konnech, Konnech. Now, this was a company that was facilitating elections around our country. In other words, this is a company that's like, we'll handle the tech aspects of your elections, right? So give us access to all the, the background information, the information of all the poll workers and all the data, the ballots that are coming through. We handle that level of it to some degree. And so I covered this story where the New York Times here 2 weeks ago on a Monday, they put a story out that said True the Vote. And True the Vote is this organization that, Dinesh D'Souza was working with the 2,000 Mules and things like that. They're an organization that is looking at potential election security issues from the 2020 election and moving forward. So in other words, fraud that did occur or fraud that could occur, and trying to, and let's not kid ourselves. I'll be straight up with you. They're partisan. They got an axe to grind. They think the election was stolen for Trump. That's fine. That shouldn't be a problem. Someone threw away my mic, I think, Ian, is what's with the audio quality. So now I'm using a headset as a microphone. And I sound like old-time radio! Yeah. So anyways, the New York Times puts an article out on Monday. It says, True the Vote's bullshitting about this Konnech company, accusing them of working with the government of China. Outrageous, True the Vote, conspiracy theories. And then the same author writes an article on Tuesday that says, the guy that runs Konnech's under arrest by the district attorney of Los Angeles for doing exactly what True the Vote said, which was giving access to poll worker information to the government of China. Now that story in a nutshell is all you need to know about the bullshit of the Democrats and the Department of Justice and the media and the left-wing streamers and YouTube and Twitch and Twitter. Anyone that says questioning election security makes you an insurrectionist. Because all of them wanted this story to remain buried. All of them. And if they were here, if Pisco would speak up right now, he'd say, Rob, that's outrageous. I wouldn't want that story buried. Yes, you did. Because the only reason this story came to light was because people were questioning election security. And you don't want them to do that. Now, I don't know. My guess is a lot of people, Pisco and some other left-wing streamers and shit, maybe they don't want, and I'm just using him because he was in the chat. Sonsol, Pisco, Dylan, maybe even Destiny, I don't know. Maybe they don't want people censored from YouTube and talking about this shit, but they don't have a problem with it. And they don't have a problem with the narrative that, it's dangerous and it's insurrection-y. Well, there's the predictable results. That's all you need to know. The New York Times says on Monday, bullshit conspiracy, election deniers, and on Tuesday, whoops, no big deal, but I guess they were right on this particular instance. Now, I've talked about, one of the people I listen to, I know a lot of my audience is probably mad at him, but Scott Adams. One of the things Scott Adams said that I think was absolutely true was he said, even if fraud occurred, most claims of election fraud will end up not being true. And I actually agree with that. And I think that that's true. For example, I spent time after the November election in 2020 constantly debunking stuff. People would say, Rob, did you see in the state of Wisconsin, 114% of the registered voters voted? That's right, Rob. More voters voted in the state of Wisconsin than there are registered voters. If you hear a claim like that, you should immediately be skeptical. And the reason is, that's very easy to check. Very. And if you were going to cheat, you wouldn't do that because that's so easy to be caught. Now, that doesn't mean it couldn't happen. Like, if you could just be a buffoon and cheat in that way. But it's like, okay, I heard that. Like, I'll give you an example, right? I talked to a dear friend of mine after Trump's State of the Union, where Hillary ripped up the copy of the State of the Union, and I went to dinner, and a dear friend of mine was there and said, Rob, did you see that Nancy Pelosi stood up after the State of the Union and ripped a copy of the Bible in half? And I was like, what? She's like, yeah. I was like, but I watched the State of the Union. Do you mean it was a copy of Trump's speech? No, it was a Bible. And then I looked, and it was like an Onion or a Babylon Bee argument. But it's when you hear something like that, it's like, okay, there's so much about this that doesn't make sense. The physical strength to rip a book in half, but also why? You might say, well, I think Nancy Pelosi doesn't like Christians. Maybe. That could very well be true. But the optics of ripping a Bible in half, I mean, that's insane. Right, Ian, I sort of agree with that. So if someone says, 114% of the people voted, like, you're like, okay. And I looked into it, and it's like, no, that's not true. It was like, in some areas it got as high as like 93% of people voted. That's still very high. That still could be fraud, but it's not 114%. Or, the infamous Dominion voting, the Navy SEALs are shooting it out in Germany with the mercenaries that work for Dominion voting. Sounds like bullshit to me. I'm not going to believe that without incredible proof. I would say the chances of that being true are less than 1/1000th of a percent that our Navy SEALs were engaged in a firefight with mercenaries from Dominion voting. But I actually had a journalist come on my radio show and talk about that story, believe it or not, which I found to be insane. And the problem is, there could be some truth in that there was fraud and things like that. And that's maybe more difficult to prove. And it's going to be more painstaking. And so sometimes it's easy to just make these bullshit claims that people believe. But it's still true that there could be fraud. It's just not every account of it will be true. Similarly, another thing that Scott Adams says that I think ties in with that is, even if there wasn't fraud, if fraud is possible, it will eventually occur. I don't understand why this is a difficult point to prove to either side. If you're a Trump supporter, and you believe, like I do, that Democrats allowed or encouraged or ignored riots to occur all the way up to the election because they thought that it benefited them, you think they're against possibly some shenanigans in the election? If you think that they would tank the economy intentionally, you think they're against shenanigans in the election? And I could go on and on. If you're a Democrat and you're watching, if you think Trump is willing to sell nuclear secrets to Russia, you think him and his side would be unwilling to do some shenanigans with elections? So both sides should have a healthy distrust and be like, look, we want this shit to be as secure and transparent as possible. Because I believe the other side is corrupt, and eventually, even if they're not cheating this time or next time, eventually the stakes are so high that they may decide to cheat. That's why questions of election security, to me, are very important. Polling from Rasmussen shows even 40% or so of Democrats believe there was cheating in the 2020 election. When you factor in independents, Republicans, and Democrats, it's around 60%. Now, you might be watching as a Democrat right now going, that's insane. That's bullshit. And maybe you're right. country thinks that there's rampant cheating going on in elections, and certainly the Democrats do, just go to fucking Twitter and see what they're saying about the 2022 election, don't you think it would behoove us to make sure that our elections were as transparent and secure as possible? And instead of censoring people saying things, you should be actually doing your best to audit and investigate as much as possible to dissuade the idea that there's shenanigans going on. But instead, what do we get? Most secure election ever, and if you disagree, you're an insurrectionist that should be censored. You're disqualified. How many times have you heard disqualified from running for office if you think the 2020 election wasn't the most secure ever? Disqualifying. That's what they're saying about Kari Lake. That's disqualifying. Now we have Merrick Garland coming out announcing, oh boy, by the way, this announcement was great. Hey, we're the FBI. We're not bad guys. We got some of those dastardly Chinese people. Really? Interesting. And he's saying, oh boy, him and Chris Ray saying, man, these Chinese, they'll interfere with our judicial process. They're trying to screw with our country. They're trying to steal our tech. Well, and then of course, if our elections are exploitable, why wouldn't they try to do that? Or it's, what am I supposed to believe? That the Chinese is like, we'll screw with your judicial system, we'll screw with, expats, Chinese expats that are naturalized U.S. citizens now. We'll screw with your technology. Oh, but we would never mess with your elections. We wouldn't do that. Of course not. Even Ray admitted as such. Of course they'll try to do that. We know that this Konnech group that was involved in so many elections in the United States apparently was giving data to the government of China. At least that's what's being alleged. So why would you bullshit and gaslight the country into saying the 2020 election was the most secure ever? Especially when the people making that claim also said the 2016 election was stolen by Russia. If you were cynical, now I know this is going to blow your mind, right? You ready? Get ready for this. This is going to blow your mind. Here is the hottest take I have. All right, you ready? If you were cynical, you might come to this conclusion. Geez, when the Democrats lose, they think that we should question elections, and when they win, they think that we shouldn't. I know that's mind-blowing. I know that that'll blow your mind. And as I already said previously, the problem with that, because the answer is going to be, well, both sides do it. Both sides do it. The Republicans are like that too. Trump was like that. If he won, he trusted it. He didn't. He won. Yeah, but the difference is you don't get called an insurrectionist and censored and said that it's disqualifying if you're a Democrat doing it. Like in the 2000 election. Or like in Stacey Abrams' election. Or the 2016 election. Yeah, we'll get to that, Ian. Hillary conceded the next day. It is transparent what's occurring. You know how many people I saw say some version of this, blue check marks say some version of this in the past couple of days? Oh, man. If Republicans win the election, it's going to really hurt our democracy. Yeah, if our democratic system has an election and the wrong side wins, then that's not democratic. It's only democracy if their side wins. Then it's democracy. Very reminiscent of Brexit, right? We'll give you the right to vote. If you vote for us, then we say, see, democracy. And if you vote for what we don't want, we say, oh, that doesn't count, do-over. There you go. That's our establishment for you. Ted Cruz is on The View, and he says, Hillary still says that the election was stolen in 2016. And, of course, the NPC comeback is, as always, but Hillary conceded the next day. Well, Hillary, she was like, I concede. Oh, no, that's different. It's different. Trump didn't say that. Saying the words, I concede, and then actively fomenting a conspiracy that Donald Trump is a puppet of Vladimir Putin, so much so that you were involved with your team information that you paid for from Russian nationals being used by the FBI that never verifies it to constantly spy on Trump's team and investigate him for 4 years isn't fucking conceding. That's like saying you're punching someone in the face and you say, oh, I'm done punching them in the face, and then you just keep punching. And everyone goes, no, that's different. They said they're done punching them. Right. They said the words, and then their actions were still acting as if it was stolen. And again, I don't have to show you. If I was home, I would bring up the chart. A U.gov poll said that as many as 66% and higher of Democrats, even in 2018, believed that Russia hacked voting machines. A claim that was never even remotely proven true. And yet 2/3 of Democrats believed it. The best analogy I could come up with is, you have two football coaches, or insert your sport, baseball, football, hockey, whatever. Coach 1, after the game, goes to the podium and says, I think these refs were corrupt. I think that they screwed us. They were probably bought and paid for by the other side. Oh boy, that's bad. That's really bad. Shouldn't say that. Okay. Then the other coach, who also believes that the refs corrupt, but he's a little more diplomatic. He goes in front of the podium and says, like Belichick styles, like, well, it's on us. We got to look ahead. Loss is never as bad as it seems. Win's never as good as it seems. So we're going to look ahead. But then he pays the refs off for the rest of the league, for the rest of the games, and says, I'll make sure that we're not cheated again. I'll pay the refs. Which one's worse? And what the Democrats would say is, well, and I forgot to add this, and he goes, I don't believe the refs cheated. I believe it's all on us. And they would say, what does it matter if he then went and did a bunch of heinous shit because he secretly still believed the refs cheated? It doesn't matter because he said the words, I don't believe the refs cheated. So if that coach is in the right and the other coach that didn't cheat, that didn't pay the refs off in the future, he's at fault because he criticized the refs. That's how fucking stupid the left is. As long as Hillary says the word, literally, think of the implications of what they're... Now, I know that this exercise is stupid because at the end of the day, the real answer is Democrats know they're full of shit. They don't care. The lefties know it. They think they're morally superior to you, and so they don't give a shit about double standards. I understand it. But for the rest of you, just so you can see how absurd this is now the precedent that has been set. Just so you know, let's say DeSantis loses the governorship, right? Well, I'm going to switch, right? Let's go back to the 2020 election, right? And Trump loses. And let's rewrite history. Now, what they're saying is really bad for Trump to say, I think the election was stolen, I want it looked into. That's really bad. But if instead, Trump would have came out the next day and said, yeah, it looks like I lost, but then paid for opposition research from a, we'll say, Chinese spy that alleged that Joe Biden gets peed on by Chinese hookers while he's sniffing little kids' hair or some shit, and that he was cheating with China to win the election and was going to sell out the country to China. If Donald Trump paid for that evidence and then took it to Bill Barr, who said, oh boy, yeah, looks good to me, don't even verify it. Give me that fucking warrant. Let's spy on the Biden camp. Then leak stories to the press. And Trump himself's out there like Obama was, opening up to all of the intel agencies. Oh, we have these allegations. Talking to our allies saying, oh, I don't know about Biden. Might be involved with the Chinese. Constant investigations. 4 years, leaks to the press. Constant. Trump allies like Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz are constantly going on Fox News saying, I've seen the proof. Joe Biden colluded with the Chinese. He's selling this country out. There will be a day of reckoning. Whistleblowers with him. The FBI that are loyal to Trump start leaking private conversations that Biden has on the phone. The media takes it and runs nuts. What do you think the left would say? Because that's the precedent that's been set. It is okay to use the DOJ and the FBI as your personal Gestapo, based on bullshit opposition research sourced by foreign spies that you don't even have to attempt to verify. That's okay. As long as you say the words, I concede. That's it. As long as you say those words, you can do all that shit in the background. And that's perfectly fine. Ian says, heard I was going on Sitch and Adam soon. Is that true? Adam messaged me and said they would love to have me on the show soon, but he hasn't gotten back to me since. So, hopefully I hear from them soon. And the problem is, with the sort of Trump-esque people. Now listen, Trump did a lot wrong. Don't get me wrong. I criticize Trump an awful lot. Still do. He put horrible people around him, for one. But the problem is, Trump was too transparent. Which is hilarious. You could hate Trump. The guy's transparent. I mean, he has no tact whatsoever when it comes to sort of hiding his feelings. At all. It's not a good trait if you want to be a sneaky, corrupt person. That doesn't mean Trump's not involved in any corruption. Maybe he is with his business dealings and stuff. But the establishment people, they know how to have plausible deniability. They know the things you have to say. For example, they say things like this. Well, of course we did delete that subpoenaed evidence, but it's okay because we had a standing order to delete all of this 6 months ago. So, that's okay. Trump would never do it that way. Trump would send a memo to his team that was like, anything we don't need, get rid of that shit. And then be like, oh, but you can't say it like that. You can't say it like that. So Hillary teams know they're not conceding the election. They know we have to say we're conceding to give us cover. Because then we can say, well, we conceded. So behind the scenes, when they're colluding with Russians and British spies and the FBI to use unverified opposition research to spy on Trump's team, then it's all good because they said the right things publicly. People like Pisco love that shit. They're all about the semantics. And actually, it is smart when it comes to the legalese, right? You know, it'd be the difference of this. Like, Trump would say something like, you know, I'll bet that they're a spy for China. Yep, Chinese spy. And they'd be like, well, that's defamation. You can't say that. When Hillary's team would be like, it's alleged that they're a spy for China. Oh, okay, that's okay. They use the word alleged. So that's what we're supposed to be. And I wish that Ted Cruz would have went further into this. She conceded, really? Is that what you call concocting the Russia collusion story? Working with a suspected Russian spy to give unverified dirt to the FBI, who then never bothered to verify it and used that to spy on Trump? While she publicly told people for years afterwards that the election was stolen? Is that what you call it? As long as she conceded the next day. Then the other difference they make is, well, no one rioted, didn't they? Don't want to go back to Inauguration Day in 2016 or 2017 when Trump was sworn in? I remember the riots in D.C. I remember. Well, the left doesn't get violent based on the lies they're believing. Really, ask Steve Scalise. Ask Brett Kavanaugh. Remember that mentally ill Trump supporter that got the shit beat out of him? And a litany of other Trump supporters that were beaten and stuff? Ask them. about the violence. Ask the Secret Service agents, dozens of them that were injured on May 30th, 2020, as left-wingers inspired by Democrats rioted and tried to break into the White House with lethal weapons such as Molotov cocktails. Ask them how it went. But oh boy, it's good to control the narrative, isn't it? Because you can just whitewash all that shit. It's okay. It's okay for us to deny elections. And it'll be okay again. If they don't like the outcomes of 2022. And mark my words, 2022 is not the big enchilada. It's 2024. If Trump wins again in 2024, the amount of violence, of fucking conspiracy theories that he cheated, that he sold out, that he sold nuclear secrets, etc., 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 will be off the fucking hook. And YouTube ain't going to be censoring people talking about it. And they're not going to be saying, oh, you know, Chuck Schumer can't say that, Hillary Clinton can't say that, Joe Biden can't say that, Kamala Harris can't say that because this violent incident happened over here. They won't say that. They'll say, well, we condemn that violence, but still. So, can't wait to finally get that strike for saying, I don't see evidence that the 2022 election was stolen. Strike! How dare you? Merrick Garland says that there was election security issues. Stacey Abrams says that her election was stolen. How dare you say that's not true? Strike! Wait a minute, didn't you say most secure ever? Shut up! But you really have to praise their commitment to the bullshit. Like, for example, the claim that the Georgia voting laws were racist and it was Jim Eagle, Jim Crow on steroids. And then there's record turnout in the black community in Georgia. And they don't say, oh, I guess we were wrong that this voter suppression didn't occur. They're not going to say that. You know what they're saying now? Well, yeah, it's still voter suppression. It's just we did such a good job that we're able to overcome it. But it's still suppression. And it still suppressed enough votes that we would have won. That's what they're out there saying right now. The balls they have and how comfortable they are just blatantly lying to your face. You can never question elections. Here's dozens of examples of Democrats doing it. Yeah, so? Well, they don't even get, like, half them know, half them are bad faith. The other half don't even get it. They legitimately, they're so brainwashed. They're so convinced that they're morally superior, and like Sam Harris, that anything they do against their opponents is justified, that it doesn't even register. Well, of course, everything I believe is absolutely true, so I'm justified believing. Again, it's this. You see this over and over and over again. Yeah, we should have lockdowns. We should. You're selfish if you're not getting vaccinated and you're not locking down. You're selfish. We need to do everything we can. And I'm tired of these people, these selfish Trump supporters. You have to do everything possible to stop the spread of COVID. Yeah, I saw you put some pictures up last week of you and your family on vacation. You guys look like you were having fun. You think that was wise? Shouldn't you have just been sheltered in your home? Well, you know, most of the time I do. And yeah, okay, yeah, I went on vacation, but that's okay. See, it's always they do enough. Dylan Burns, right? He did enough. He could have stayed indoors and not associated with people. Instead, he was going to large gatherings that was against the recommendations of his own community in D.C., where they said, don't go to large gatherings. That's what the official health experts were saying. But he went because that was important for him. And he didn't think that there should be vaccine mandates for those events that he was going to. And he didn't think that he should have to be tested, even though he was more likely to contract and spread the disease than someone who had a prior infection. Prior infection plebes, they should be tested. They shouldn't be allowed to go grocery shopping and things like that without masks. But everything he wanted to do conveniently fell in the, well, this is enough. This is doing just enough. This shit should be allowed. It's the old Bernie Sanders trope. Millionaires are immoral. until he's a millionaire, and then it's billionaires are immoral. And if he ever becomes a billionaire, then it'll be multi-billionaires are immoral. It's always the person with 1 cent more. That's the problem. These fucking people can fly in private jets 364 days a year, and they, on that 365th day, they'd be motherfucking the guy that flew 1 more day than them. How dare they? They find themselves to be morally superior, so everything they do is justified. Which is fine. It's okay to be a hypocrite, except that you're using the force of the state to coerce and force people to do things. But you only want to do it to the things that you don't do. Can't question elections unless we want to. Oh, sorry that all the people that told you you had to lock down didn't. Sorry Gavin Newsom went to the French Laundry. We're sorry. Sorry. We're terribly sorry. Sorry. Kids had to wear masks while Stacey Abrams happily takes a photo without one. Sorry. We're just such great people. We're sorry. Now, maybe you'll find an example if you watch thousands of hours of me doing stuff of me being a hypocrite. I'm not a perfect person, but I'll tell you what I'm not doing. Advocating that people be censored or locked up for shit that I'm myself doing. I might be a hypocrite and say this action is wrong and then have done that action in my life. That's different. I'm not saying that's good. But imagine the hubris it takes to say, I think the police should make sure that those kids can't skateboard. That's a good idea. But I'm going to go to my Black Lives Matter rally. I think the police should shut down that gym because they don't have masks. But it was okay for me to take a photo up in that school without a mask. Imagine the arrogance that it takes to live like that. Imagine how good it must feel to vote for a party that's willing to exert power like that. That's just nakedly like, fuck you, we don't care. We'll lock up our opposition, we'll do whatever we want. How good would that? As someone who has voted Republican for the majority of my adult life, how good would it feel just once to see them exercise power like the Democrats do? It'd be amazing. And what's great is, when you go to these like online spheres and listen to these groups of Democrats, they're like, Democrats never exert power. They never do it. They ever. Trump's still walking free. It's ridiculous. Just like Black Lives Matter, when 99% of every institution in the fucking world, okay, that's an exaggeration, but at least in our country, and certainly in many areas around the world, there were protests and riots in the UK because a cop in Minneapolis killed a black guy. Explain that. But when all these incidents, Call of Duty, you turn on the Xbox Marketplace, oh, Black Lives Matter. NFL, embrace Black Lives Matter. Call of Duty, you turn it on, Black Lives Matter. And what's Black Lives Matter saying? No one will have a conversation. There's just no conversations. No one's willing to talk about it. Everybody's talking about it, but that's not good enough. It's the same reason that they're more worried about Elon Musk buying Twitter than losing the midterms. Because what they fear the most is a free exchange of ideas. They can't. The worse their ideas are for people, the more they need to control the narrative. Now they're blatantly talking about a ministry of truth. And we're seeing blatant evidence that they're colluding with social media companies to censor people they disagree with. They have to. Because if people see what that's why so many of them aren't showing up for debates. That's why they're getting their ass kicked in debates in all of these races. Like DeSantis kicking Chris' ass tonight. They can't defend their record. They can't defend their policies. So much of what they believe is incredibly heinous to the average person. I'm sorry. I know I'm on Twitch, and I got to be careful what I say, but this is just the truth. This isn't me saying what my opinion is. Most people in this country don't buy the kid genital mutilation shit. They fucking hate it. Don't like it. So go ahead and run on it, Democrats. Biden was just talking about it the other day. Have at her. Make that your issue. But they can't. We're told it's the strongest economy ever. But Nancy Pelosi says on Meet the Press or whatever yesterday, when it comes to inflation, we need to change the subject. Really? Now I see the narrative that's going out there like, oh, okay, inflation. I'd rather pay a little more for gas than have fascism. What do you mean? I thought you guys were winning on the economy. Best economy ever. By the way, I think it was Axios put an article out that said exactly what I've been saying for months. That people around Biden are telling them, stop bragging about how good you're doing in the economy. It's pissing people off. Which is exactly what I said would happen. It's just not smart. I don't want Democrats or Biden to win. I'm just saying from a pure strategic standpoint, why would you be telling your constituents that are struggling everything's going great? Because the implicit message is twofold. One, if everything's going great, then you must be doing something wrong if you're not doing great. And second, there ain't no help coming for you because we already think things are great. Instead, the message is, we understand people are struggling. It is a very difficult time for people in this country. Absolutely. We get that people are struggling. But we don't think it's our fault. We think we've done what we can to help. We have more plans going in the future, and we think the Republicans will do worse. But instead, they're like, well, Biden, every time in these ads, he's like, I don't understand what people are upset about the economy. It's great. By the way, if Republicans win the midterms, which looks increasingly likely, wait until you see how fast they declare a recession. I mean, it used to be 2 quarters of negative growth was a recession. Now they changed that. No, that was never the technical definition. So once Republicans go, oh yeah, now it's a recession. Yeah, recession now. Yeah. Damn those Republicans. On this note, I'll see if I can find this clip here real quick. You have to excuse the audio issues, even with the clips. Real quick, this Dash Dabrowski character, he's one of these left-wing influencers that's probably paid by the Biden administration, says, just to recap, Ron DeSantis illegally trafficked migrant women and children across the country, made calls for explicit violence against an 81-year-old Dr. Fauci, and his Florida election police arrested multiple people in Democratic areas for voter fraud, all within 2 months. Corrupt, fascism. That's all they have. No, here's what happened. Ron DeSantis correctly called out Dr. Fauci and jokingly said that we should, hoist him on his petard, it's fine. Ron DeSantis nobly sent awesome illegal immigrants to an awesome community that said that they wanted them, and they got pissy about it for some reason. And Ron DeSantis enforced voting laws. Oh, my boy. Where did I get sent? Here, this is what I want. Enjoy this 2 minutes. Now, what's the gaslighting from this? Where is this? I think it's MSNBC. They're going to interview Trump supporters in Pennsylvania about January 6th. And so Trump supporters in Pennsylvania about January 6th, right? But watch how the Trump supporters know more than even the journalists, right? Watch how pathetic it is. This is why they won't have this discussion, because they know these average Trump supporters know more about than what the average lefty does. That's why they don't want to debate me. It's just #it's different. They don't want to debate me, even on January 6th. They know they get crushed. They know it. It's indefensible. Let's see how this goes.
Mastriano was at the insurrection, and he was photographed breaching
Mastriano was at the insurrection. Is that what he was at? The insurrection. Anyone who was there May 30th, 2020, where Molotov cocktails were being thrown at Secret Service agents trying to break into the White House, were they also at the insurrection? If we find out that some Democrat politician was like, well, no, I was just there marching for George Floyd. What's funny is, not only does she say it's an insurrection, but imagine trying to sort of talk to these people and have some good rapport from them. You're going to find out one of these ladies was actually there January 6th. You just called her an insurrectionist. But notice how what framing they have. And this is just the beginning of it. You'll see.
One of the restricted areas. Is that okay?
Which area? Because I saw a video where Capitol officers were taking away barriers and unlocking doors for people. So, I mean,
they opened the gates.
So it shouldn't be disqualifying for an elected official if they participated in January 6th?
He didn't strike anybody. He didn't hurt anybody.
And the only one that died was a protester.
See, notice how you mean it shouldn't be disqualified? No. Let me ask you this, MSNBC reporter. Should it be disqualifying for Kamala Harris to have supported a bail fund for violent people that committed arson against a police station? Because that's what Kamala Harris did. What do you think they would have said if Trump would have set up a bail fund for the people arrested January 6th? Now, Kamala was asked about this the other day, and she said, that's misinformation. Bullshit. Where were the fact checkers, by the way? Where were they?
There, not a Capitol Police
Unarmed
officer.
female veteran.
That's the only one that died.
That's the only one who died.
A police officer did die.
No.
Another lie. No, a police officer did not die January 6th. A police officer died in the days followed of a stroke. They thoroughly investigated and looked for video evidence that he was involved in any physical altercation. According to the police department, we're unable to find any evidence of that. And yet we were told for months that he was beaten to death by Trump supporters with a fire extinguisher, which was a lie. How is it that this journalist doesn't know that, but these average citizens do? It's almost like she's not really a journalist and she's a propagandist that's spewing lies. You remember when I did the debate I covered the debate that Vaush did with Jackson Hinkle, and I said that one of the sneaky things that Vaush does is he just lies about something, and then if you catch him, quickly moves on. So I think you can still find this review. It was like a 2-hour debate. My review of the debate was 4 hours. One of the things, what this debate was about was basically whether or not in the bombing that the United States under Trump did of Assad in response to a gas attack that occurred, did Assad gas his own people in that attack? Vaush is saying yes, and Jackson Hinkle is saying no. Jackson is citing an OPCW, which was the international organization that was investigating this chemical attack. He is citing the investigator that was part of the team that is saying, we reported that it looked like this gas attack probably didn't occur, and there's no evidence that Assad did it. That's what this whistleblower is saying. And when the whistleblower came to that conclusion, the OPCW said, we're going to replace you with a different team that gives us the results we want. And so Jackson, his entire argument, basically 95% of his argument, hinges on this one whistleblower. And he's crushing Vaush in this debate. Vaush is just using innuendo and name-calling and saying, oh, well, you must be for violent crimes, and Assad's done bad things in the past, and not talking specifics. Right? That's what Vaush is doing. And Jackson's like, but this is specifically what this whistleblower who was on the ground said he saw. So on the specifics, Jackson's winning. So at one point, like an hour into this debate, Vaush is like, blah, 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 Plus, you are aware that this whistleblower ultimately concludes with me that the gas attack occurred and Assad did it. And Jackson's like, what? And Vaush is like, yes, the guy you're citing basically agrees with me at the end of the day. And you can see Jackson's taken aback, because that's basically it. That's it for Jackson's art. If that's the case, right? If Jackson's right about everything he said, but then later that whistleblower came out and said, actually, I've looked into the facts. It turns out I was wrong because of X, Y, Z. That's pretty much it. But then after kind of thinking on it, he's like, can you show me where he said that? And Vaush is like, yeah, 1 second. Yeah. And then Jackson's like, wait a minute. No, I'm reading right here. He actually concludes the opposite. And Vaush is like, yeah, anyways. And then moves on to something else. Now, there's a reason that Vaush did that. And the reason is, what's the downside from doing that? Worst case scenario, it's like, well, you spoke too soon. You were actually wrong. He says, okay, forget about that. But here's my other point. The upside is, completely wins the debate. If the person he's talking to isn't confident enough to say, no, that's not true. Now, why am I bringing up that more on Vaush? That's exactly what you see happen like with this alleged journalist. Throw bullshit out. It was an insurrection. They're like, wait a minute. Like, where? What restricted part? Police were opening gates, people were there peacefully, etc., etc. So she doesn't respond to that. She's just like, well, but people died. And they're like, well, I guess she didn't say, but this woman was like, the only person that died was an unarmed Trump supporter. And she's like, well, that cop died. And they're like, no. And she's not, oh, okay. Just throw bullshit to the wall and hope something sticks. And here, luckily they have people that are informed. But the other thing that's equally important is they're in a group. Now imagine that this is one individual that believes this, but everyone else is an MSNBC shill. And they're just like, yeah, they killed him! Would they speak up like this? Now imagine that you have social media where you have all these bots and shadow banning and demonetization and censorship. You can't even talk about these issues. Oh boy, what's that do to national opinion? And yet, despite all of the corruption that I just mentioned, so many people still are more aware of the facts than the left. The same was true of COVID. Even shithead Bill Maher admitted. Left-wingers were less informed on COVID than right-wingers in general. Even if you think that right-wingers downplayed how significant COVID was, left-wingers way overplayed it. Not even close. To where polls were showing that Democrats, the majority of Democrats believed that like 30 to 50% of people that got COVID died from it. The real number is far under 1%. Let's finish.
It was a stroke. That's not on site.
Caused by that. That's because
Right.
he shouldn't have been a police officer. It was one woman.
So
who
what do
shot
you
him.
make, though, overall of January 6th? I mean, watching that footage, it was pretty disturbing. I mean, there were people throwing excrement at the wall.
This is not how you ask questions. You would say, did you find any of the behavior of January 6th disturbing? Notice how she begs the question constantly. What did you think? Wasn't it disturbing how they were doing this stuff? That's not journalism. That's fine. If she wants to have a debate with these people, fine. But don't act like you're having a focus group.
Walls, and it was it's the Capitol.
It looked a lot like Antifa's
Yeah,
actions
it looked
to
a
me.
lot, except on a much smaller scale. It looked the same as the Black Lives Matter riots.
That's what I saw the similarities to
Around the
be.
country, not just
Minneapolis
one.
burns. Kenosha burns.
But so it's okay
Waukesha
just
burns.
because one side that you
No.
disagree with?
Well, that's funny that she says that just because, see, the both sides do it argument, right? That's clearly not what they're saying. What they're saying, let me ask, this is what I've said that they'd ask. I said, well, interesting you say that. Did you have a focus group talking about left-wing violence and say, weren't you horribly disturbed that left-wing politicians paid lip service? Did you do that to Democrat voters? No, you didn't. You brought us here to act like this was a horrible event. But when we say, oh, it looked like a smaller scale of what we saw the left do, all you could say is, oh, so you're saying it's okay because both sides do it? This is constantly the left's game. What aboutism, they'll say. You're supposed to ignore their double standard.
I'm saying Antifa infiltrated.
It's good for one, it's good for the other.
Anybody
I
who
don't see it
harms
that way.
anybody who caused property destruction, that needs to be dealt with.
Yeah.
By the way, this kid is awesome. This kid talks exactly like I am. That's exactly what I said. People that engaged in violence, fought with the police, property destruction, absolutely, they should be punished. But the vast majority of people January 6th that were there did not do that. The people that just walked in the Capitol should receive the same punishment as the people that walked into the Capitol to try to prevent the Kavanaugh hearing, which was a slap on the wrist. That's what they should get. And this kid is smart because he's saying, no, I'm not saying if you engaged in violence there, absolutely punish them. But the same should have been true of all the left-wing rioters. But no, I'm very impressed with this kid.
But if you're there making your voice heard at the people's house, no less, that's, again, it's a fundamental constitutional right of an American citizen. And people should not be being held political prisoner because of it.
For misdemeanors. That's East Germany.
That's East Germany.
Tactics.
Yeah, that's what's scary.
It was an actual fiery but mostly peaceful protest.
Notice that the MSNBC show has nothing to say to this, and they exactly nail it. That's East Germany. That you have people 18 months later still in solitary confinement and locked up for misdemeanors that they're looking for 4 to 10 years for. The FBI is locking up blue-haired grandmas, but they can't know shit all about the pipe bomber. People like Ray Epps that were encouraging people to go in don't get arrested.
And the other ones that were the opposite.
Was the protest legitimate in your eyes?
Administration, I feel like, is using it as their Reichstag fire.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what they're using it as.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that President Trump could have quelled the violence that day?
Not him personally.
I don't think so, no.
I don't think so.
It started while he was still speaking. I was actually there. I was there to see what I thought was going to.
Now, this woman was there. Now, given what this MSNBC show just said, that Mastriano attended the insurrection. So if you're this woman, this woman needs to understand that this woman interviewing you wants you in prison probably for like 10 years. Because you just happen to be at the insurrection. And these are the people that say, well, we need to come together.
Going to be the last time I ever saw Trump in Little Island.
So did he tell everybody to go and start rioting?
No.
I didn't think so.
No, and actually, I stayed for the whole speech, like a ton of people did.
Mm-hmm.
And then we all headed to the Capitol because he said, let's go to the Capitol and peacefully let our voices be heard. And we get to the Capitol and we're like, what the hell's going on? Because it had already happened.
Stunning. What the average person knows more than the media. Because they're not media, they're propagandists. MSNBC and that woman would happily have all those people there locked up. Happily would. It's for the greater good. The way they cheered when people died that didn't take the COVID medications they wanted. The way they cheer for the unbelievable mistreatment of January 6 people that weren't engaged in any violence whatsoever. It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And I know if there's a left wing, isn't there people on the right that are disgusting too? Isn't there? Yeah, fuckhead, there is. Yeah, you're right. But the difference is they don't have institutional power. They don't get to lock you up for years for nonviolent crimes. They don't get to have you censored off social media and have banks shut your accounts and shit because they don't like what you said. That's what your side does. Hashtag, we're the resistance. Every major institution in the Western world agrees with me. I'm the resistance. Rage for the machine. All right, tomorrow what I would like to do, I don't know if I'll be able to do it, but I would like to stream the Fetterman-Oz debate. I'm not so sure what my equipment will be like, if I'll be able to do that. I won't be home yet, so yeah. But hope you enjoyed this stream. If you're just tuning in for the first time, look, I know the quality of this stream sucks. My mic sucks. Someone threw it away. My don't have a camera when I'm not at work. But I am one of the best right-wing streamers out there, particularly on these sort of spaces. And I'm going to keep fighting. And I enjoy what I do. I'm going to start trying to have more fun with it. Joking around more and stuff like that while talking about the serious topics that I do. My channel is going to grow. It is. I'm going to be able to put more time into it soon. And so I thank you all. While we have 40, 50 people watching on a night like tonight, it really means a lot to me that people stick with me even when my quality sucks, when, the microphone sucks and the image sucks and all of that stuff. Just know that the left-wing people run for me. They don't want to debate me. They know what will happen. And that this corruption is being seen by people on the left and the right. There are people on the left that are fed up with this corruption. And that the old tropes of the left, that's what about us, blah, 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 are bullshit. And they know it is. We know it is. They know we know it is. But they still go along with it because they control these institutions. So, all right. Thank you so much. We'll see real quick if there's anyone I can raid. I don't know. Let's raid my boy Lecture Fan. Slight programming note. I will be doing a 24-hour stream November 5th. That is the Saturday before the election. So I'm going to be trying to line up some guests. I believe Alex Stein's already agreed. Carlos Aldivia, Todd Bartley. I'll see if I can get Mastriano on. That would be a big get for me. I've had him on the show before, so we'll try to do that. And yeah, we'll go from there. So thank you so much for joining me this evening. Again, sorry about the quality. It's just the nature of these sort of streams when I'm not at home. But we'll be getting better soon. So thanks so much, everyone. Enjoy this rate of Lecture Fan. Talk to you tomorrow night, probably. And as always, have a good one.
Which I think is a kangaroo circus.
1 minute and then I gotta go.
The chairman of the January 6th committee objected to a...
Boom! Robnoerr raiding with the party of 17. Boom! Thank you, Rob. Appreciate the raid. Welcome, everybody, from the Robnoerr stream. Normal America with Robnoerr. Thank you so much, Rob. Hope you're doing well. Dude, this Ted Cruz appearance on The View today was so good. Ted Cruz.